Today we've got a 2010 GMC 1500 with a 6.2 engine. We're going to be replacing the front bearing hub, the inner and outer tie rod, and we're going to be replacing the lower ball joints. Also today, I'm going to be replacing the CV joint, the whole half shaft. Do this at your own skill level. If you don't feel comfortable, take it to a reputable shop. The first thing, and it's a very, very big must, and that is safety. So jack the car up, put it on several jack stands. Make sure it's completely safe before you do the job. Because of this hose, we're going to tie the caliper out of the way for just a second. Don't want to put any pressure on that hose. It is your brake line. Definitely don't want to hurt it. Now, we've got that securely out of the way. So now with the brake out of the way, the rotor should come off. We got it started. Just work your way around. Don't have to bend it up too much. Now we'll get a bigger screwdriver. And there we go. Next on our list is this center hub bolt. That is what's holding the CV shaft, the half shaft, to the hub. It's a 36 millimeter. I'm using an Earthquake XT impact, got from Harbor Freight. This is one of the first projects. So far, it's done very well. Ah. Oh. Now that may be more difficult on other trucks, but this one's had a lift kit in the last 5 years, so this has probably been off recently. Okay, we're going to remove these 3 bolts. Okay, now we're going to unplug the anti-lock brake. Pushing this tab. It should go apart. Now, and then you undo that. We've got that out of there. We've got our 3 bolts off the back. So, we'll take our rubber mallet. Take our rubber mallet. Now, when I tapped on that shaft, I had that nut back on where I didn't touch the threads. I just wanted to make sure it was loose in the splines. Rubber mallet. Bearing hub. One thing very important to note. Remember how this went on. Like so. This one, it indents in. I did a 3/4 ton pickup one time, and I made the mistake and I put it this way. So then I put everything else back on, and I had to take it all back apart. So make a note how this goes. Next thing we're going to do is we've got all the tension off of this spring. So we're going to remove the bolts that hold the shock link in. The next thing I'm going to undo is the outer tie rod. Next thing is the lower ball joint. We could tell it was bad. We could put something underneath it, pry it up and down right here, and it wanted to move. It would play. You could just see movement between this and this when you put a pry bar in here when everything was still on it. There's that. So we have our splitter. There that is. So now to facilitate the easier removal of the ball joint, and since I'm going to replace it anyway, we're going to remove the CV shaft. The Allen head bolts in the back. We'll remove those. Notice the spacers in there. They're in there because this is a 7-inch lifted truck. So the spacer had to be put in there to accommodate for the different length. So let's remove those. Okay, last bolt. It should accordion together. There we go. Get that spacer off there. Again, that spacer, because it does have a lift kit. Since that seems to be stuck in there because of that plate, and I'm going to have to do it anyway, I'm going to go ahead and remove the stabilizer link, get that out of the way, and then I should be able to get that out of there without any problem. So there that is. That's going to be stuck in there. Well, it's not. A lot of times these are hard to get out. Now make sure you keep everything in the order. Pushing, pushing, spacer, pushing, 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 spacer, pushing, pushing. And then we'll go ahead and put the nut back on so it all stays together. Now, this is not going to be easy to get. Okay, so you're learning as I go. Instead of doing the whole ball joint because of the way the old ball joint is pressed in, for just a few bucks more, I got the whole lower A-arm there. So I'm going to remove this bolt and that bolt down there. And I'm just going to drop the A-arm. Keep your washer. Now I'm going to set that back on just a tad. The reason for that is, take my mallet. Don't lose the washer. It just pops out. Now, if all goes well, take my rubber mallet. We're not reusing this one, so you can get real near with it. Watch your brake line. Now what we're going to focus on is this baby right here, the outer tie rod. So we got to get it off there. We've already busted it loose, remember? So we will grab our wrench, and this jam nut right here. This locks it in place so this shaft can't turn. Now remember, this is your part of your alignment. So we will back that off. Like so. Then we got to get this off of that. So this shaft, the inner tie rod, is going to turn. So there's a spot right here where you can grab it. Now you need to count the turns. That way you can get the new one close so you can get to the alignment shop. Here's our new Moog bearing assembly. There is an outer and inner tie rod. It's their helper series. Here is the bolt going arm. This has got Moog's new bootless. It's a different kind of boot seal. Doesn't take a traditional boot. It's supposed to be their new helper series. It's really good. I will link to the part numbers for these down below. But yours will inevitably be different. But the links might get you to the right location, and then you can look up the correct part numbers. So, start some reassembly here. Okay, now we're going to fish a brand new CV joint through here. So, grab our spacer, has a notch. Line up. Now I'm just going to start one bolt. Like so. Because I want to use blue thread locker. Blue, red, blue. Red means it can be removed at a later date without heat. Put a little on our threads here. Okay, this new piece from Moog, this new ball joint, got the new style seal on it. It's a dust seal. It's supposed to be quite a bit better. They also come greasable. So before you do anything, the easiest thing to do is to put the grease zerd in. And remember the angle it needs to be so you can get to it. So I'm going to aim it to the front. If you can turn it later. I did on the other one. I've pre-installed the CV joint, but I may have to take it back off. I forgot about this, having to go in that hole. Down here. I don't know if there's enough room or not. There is, there is. If there isn't, then there isn't. I gotta take it back off. No big deal. It's the only thing I do twice today. It's a success. So it can be done. Now we go around our brake drum. Finding. All right. I don't know if you can see it. But now we've got it close. And wiggle it into place. Hold it came out. A little bit more. Move it around with that. So let's try it. Okay, now we've got to get the inner tie rod off. I could not, for the life of me, budge the tie rod, and I did not want to bend the steering shaft by pressing on it too hard. So I cut it off. Not what I'd recommend to do. I did. So, we got to get this boot off here. So it has a standard clamp on the outside. We can pull off like so. There's a groove in there. It gets down that groove, so we're going to take a little WD-40. And we're going to get it up in that boot. It should help facilitate its movement. Now, I don't think you're going to be able to see this. Way back in the back, there's a clip, a spring clip. Okay. Now I'm going to show you. So I'm going to take a long screwdriver and I'm going to find the clip. Like so. And I'm going to tap on it. Basically, I'm going to pop it open. And there it went. See, it used to lock together. Now, this is ruined. The one-time use deal. Now you just easily pull the boot. I'm going to take a small screwdriver. Help me free the boot off. Get it over that lip. That's what it's on. All right. There we go. Fresh. Now, see how loose that is? We're going to get that off there. So I ordered a kit to remove this off of Amazon. And none of the pieces that came with it are big enough. So I also, just as a backup, I ordered this. So let's see if it works. Okay, you're going to be here with me to see if this works. Never tried it before. Nope. Did not. Okay. Quite the contraption, but it worked. Breaker bar, and it worked. Now we got to disassemble our contraption here, like so. We'll take that off. Yes. Now, the inner tire. So I took the part I bought for the tie rod. This is the inner. And I ground it down. For some reason, this truck is just bigger. Even the ones you can rent don't fit. So that slips over that like that. See, it's got the flat edges. It's a tube that slides over. I got it in. There we go. See, just slides over that like that. And it slides in here. And then it locks. There we go. Okay. Not knocking that off. Put that on there. Lock it. Okay. Now we'll get our door. And that is that. So we've got that all torqued down. Now if you remember, we busted up the new clamp on the watertight boot. Now surprisingly, if you buy one from auto supply store, what you're going to get is a zip tie. So we will loosely put a zip tie around it. So it gets to that spot, if you remember, where there was a ring. And then apply it back to the back. And then pull it back. Now, we will reinstall. Oop, close. There it work. And there we go. We're going to go ahead and torque the ball joints. This one on my truck, the book says 92. Yours might be different. Always refer to the book. Okay, so forget to get your jam nut. If you forget that, you'll be doing this all over again. Well, now, unfortunately, since we had to cut the old tie rod off, the old tie rod arm longer than the old one, we just have to guess on how many turns. We just got to get the front end short enough that we can get it to an alignment shop. Remember that, alignment shop. Okay, now we're going to reverse. We're going to put back on the steering, the sway bar to the mount. This is sometimes easier said than done because it's torqued now. It's not got the truck weight on it, so it's got some leverage. So remember our order. Okay, bolt, bushing, sleeve, bushing, in there, up to there, out. Out. Pull that pressure on it this time. Okay. Okay, I had to get both arms and move the camera. I had to kind of pry up on this. See how it's all torqued? It's just because this isn't pushed up. So, what I normally do is I get it started. And then I kind of put the jack under this and push up on it a little bit. So we flatten that out. And then I go the rest of it. And there. So we've got the shocks bolted. The tie rod torqued. The ball joints torqued. I have not done the inner bushings yet, but I will. Now we're ready to put the hub on. Wait a sec. Okay, let's see if you can do this only once. Remember I told you how to make sure you remember how this thing went. And it went like that. Put a little grease on the splines. Some say yes, some say no. Might help the next poor soul that gets to do this. Okay, here's the bolts. I'm going to add a little blue Loctite to them. Get them started. Easier now than when that's all in place. Remember this plate? Told you to make sure you know how it goes on. And mine goes on like this, so it recesses backwards. And it goes on. That. Feed your wheel speed sensor cable through the slot. Like so. Sure your splines smash up. Huh? Okay, so we don't have the problem we had earlier. I'm going to wire tie these little doodads out of the way of the tires. And then I'm going to check them fit. Later. It's plugged in. Plugged in there. Okay. So you have your washer. Very long-winded nut. And if you remember correctly, right at 36. Ah. Okay. Now some people will just tell you to impact that on, call it a day. But I'm going to stop there as it's pulling the shaft forward. And now I'm going to torque it. I'm going to show you what I do. If somebody has a better way, please list below. As there's got to be a better way than this. Okay, the manual says 133 pounds. So that's going to want to spin Now I'm going to knock these off. And I will replace that hubcap, but not yet. Grab the brake rotor. Right there. Clean the rotor. So the caliper mounting bolts up to 129. Of course, yours may be different, so make sure you check your manual. And that little slider bolt, the one right there, that allows the caliper to slide in and out. 74. Okay. Brakes are done. Sounds bad, just don't forget to replace your cap and replace your fluid.